Hello, my name is Alejandro Banda, and today I'm gonna talk to you about the causes of American Revolution. And I'm gonna discuss the end of salutary neglect, the 7 Years' War, the proclamation in 1763, Parliamentary Revenue Acts, Boston Massacre, Tea Act, the Boston Tea Party, battles of Lexington and Concord, Olive Branch Petition, and I will state my point of whether I think what times they could have reconciliated between the American colonists and the British Crown. But starting off, I think there wasn't a chance because from what we know is that the British Crown was harsh most of the time, taxing them immensely for just normal things, and they literally had no control over like the immense amount of people there were right here in the colonies. Okay, salutary neglect is basically used during the 17th century and 18th century. It's basically when Britain tries to be less harsh in order to maintain their rule in right here the colonies. 7 Years' War, it's a war between the French and the Indians and Britons and Spaniard countries. It was literally kind of fought around the world. It's also known as the French and Indian War. And it basically took France out of America. And then America, the colonists, and Britain won, yet they kind of had like a bunch of debt after this war. Okay, the Proclamation of 1763. It's a proclamation right here set up in the colonies, which it did not allow the colonists to move west of the Appalachian Mountains, which some people did not like since they went over there to get land. And if they weren't offered and they kind of like take that away from them, then why did they go there in the first place? Parliamentary Renew Acts. Import and export control of molasses in the Act of 1733. And there were also new duties like the township duties, where they taxed everything from paper, from stamps, and there's the other tax where they taxed important papers stamped by Britain or the colonies, and there was also taxing on importing, like actual ships importing. This soon led to like basically the Boston Massacre. Not tied right away, but in a way it did with all those struggles that they had to go through. The Boston Massacre happened on March 5th, 1770. It was basically some of the peasants that were taunting the British soldiers. Then one of the British soldiers shot, and when they shot, it was at a crowd. They wounded 11 people and killed 5. Captain Thomas Prestob and 8 soldiers, they were held in trial in the colonies, and 2 of them were committed with murder, and the other ones were let go of. Crispus Attucks, a former free slave and laborer, died in this attack. Okay, so the Tea Act and the Boston Tea Party, these 2 events are united and tied in some way. The Tea Act, the tea was being taxed apart from all other taxes on food like grains and bread. Tea, which was sold in quantities, was soon taxed without any warning. This enraged the people, leading them to dump all the tea in the ocean in defiance to the dumb laws. Okay, so the people who dumped it into the ocean or the Boston Harbor were basically, you could say, the Sons of Liberty. Yes, they said the story that they dressed up and they got into the ship at night and then they threw everything off. The township duties fueled female patriotism. In the 1770s, the township duties were repealed, ending the tax on trade. And in 1771 and 72, they experienced a lot of flourishment in shipments. So the Battle of Lexington and Concord, it happened from 1774 to 75. Boycotts in America rose, and British went against the Minutemen. A Minuteman was a group of militia that was supposed to be ready within a minute. They were just conceived of farmers, normal people, sometimes captains, past revolutionary, past captains, and just kind of like scrambled mix up bunch, and came into a bloody battle in Lexington, which left 273 British wounded or dead. It was kind of bad for the British because they were trying to look at secret spots of ammo stashes that the Americans had, but they didn't find anything. Yet the casualties in the Americans was like around 90, somewhere around there. So they didn't suffer that much like the Britons did. The Olive Branch Petition was drafted on July 5th, 1775. It was a letter to the King, George III, in giving like a last attempt to make peace between the colonies or to still reconcile with the British Crown. This failed horribly. The king was enraged, and so from all this we know that the British Crown is like horrid towards the colonists, and they weren't being represented as they were being taxed harshly. So we know, and I know, that the British Crown and the American reconciliation and them having peace and being back under the royal crown control would have not been possible throughout this time or later on. Thank you and goodbye.